Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Off the Cuff. Here we go again. This is part two. We're doing two in one day because we missed a day or two. I'll have to check because of just scheduling and some internet issues that I had had. And so we covered in the first part of today, verse 3. Now we're in verse 4. It says, greatly desiring to see you, being mindful of your tears, that I may be filled with joy. Verse 5, when I call to remembrance the genuine faith that is in you, which dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and I'm persuaded in you also. So I love this because he has a great desire to connect, that there is genuine sadness that there is not that connection. And then pivots a little bit here to saying, listen, this is something awesome that I love about you. You've got genuine faith. Wouldn't it be awesome if people said, hey, you're a person of genuine faith, not just hyper faith or fake faith, but genuine faith? I think there is faith that people term faith that isn't really faith. And you can tell because I've heard people pray for something and then right after says, oh, I don't know if it's going to happen. Or I'm like, well, why did you just pray? I'm not judging anybody. We're all on a process and journey of learning and growing. And we all need to learn and grow, me included, in the faith. And so, but I like this where it talks about, so have genuine faith, because without faith, it's impossible to please God. Faith, real faith. Do a study on faith. As we walk through the New Testament, you are going to learn about what it means to be in faith. And it says, when I call to remembrance the genuine faith is in you, which dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, I'm persuaded in you also. There's something about spiritual heritage. Now, look, you might be a first generation believer. And don't ever think, oh, I'm a first generation believer. I don't have Lois and Eunice. I don't have a Lois and Eunice. But you can be a Lois and Eunice. You can be a Lois or a Eunice. You can be the one. You're the one that has broken the chain and become first generation Christian. And now you are the Lois. And if you're a male, let's just call you Lewis. All right. Not going to get into that. It works the same way. If you'd be grandfather and you're not a grandfather yet, you may not even be married. But that's the vision that you should have. Already you should be praying for your children and your children's children and your children's children's children. I already pray for my children's children. I already do. Every day, praying for my children's children. I pray for their families. I pray for things that are yet to take place in the natural because I'm seeing them now take place in the spiritual. And so I think there is something about a passing on and a generational passing on to your children, and then your children pass on. And you can, I believe, and it's true in my opinion, because it's clear from the scriptures, that genuine faith is something that dwelt in Lois and then in Eunice and has been passed on to the third generation. You can pass on, I believe, spiritual wealth. I believe you can pass on spiritual faith. I believe you can. There is a spiritual transaction that can happen between you and your children and your children's children if you allow it to happen. And how do we do that? I believe we've got to be deliberate about that. Now, how did Off the Cuff start? Because I was doing this with my children, going through entire books of the Bible. In fact, we're in Proverbs right now and walking through the book of Proverbs because I'm looking to pass down my genuine faith to my children so they'll pass down to their children. Don't let the music die in you. Don't let all the knowledge that you have and all the gifts that you have and all the things that you've learned die on the inside of you. Pass that down to your children. Be intentional for looking for teaching moments on how you can pass those things down to your children. Look for those conversations. Sometimes it can be awkward because you don't want to be suddenly saying, oh, by the way. But if you pray, I believe God will open a door where it will come into natural conversation. Okay? There are moments now that I've learned when I have forced conversation, and sometimes you do need to force conversation, don't get me wrong, where I've looked to force conversation and it's been resistant compared to when it naturally comes up in a conversation. They might ask a question, or there's something that happens and I can say, hey, look what happened here. Here's what I'll say for that. And then you're able to bring that teaching moment and pass down that wisdom and pass down those spiritual gems, that genuine faith, those spiritual gifts, that spiritual knowledge, that spiritual goodness, that spiritual wealth, that generational spiritual wealth. People talk about passing down material wealth from generation to generation. You can pass down spiritual wealth from generation to generation. Don't let the music die in you. Make sure that you're passing down your spiritual wealth through the generations. If you're not there yet, if you're still single, if you're married and you don't have kids yet, you can be then growing that spiritual wealth in preparation for passing down that inheritance through the generations, so that will never be a break in that cycle, and that there will always be first, second, third, fourth, fifth. I'm sixth generation Christian. I'm seventh, all the way down until Jesus comes. Well, I hope that blessed you today. And as always, God's richest blessing be upon you and your family. Until the next episode tomorrow, Off the Cuff. God bless you.